Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 204 of the Canadian Football Countdown. We're back with another off-season roundtable, a variety of topics from the past 2 weeks around the CFL. And on our top 5 countdown today, we're counting down the top 5 current CFL running backs. Got a good show planned for you here today. We are a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network. Ryan, Adam, Trey, all here with you tonight. We'll bring the guys in just a second. We are live over on a variety of platforms, thanks to our presenting sponsor, Game Time TV, which you can learn more about by visiting GameTimeTV.ca. We'll be taking your comments and questions in our live chat throughout the night, and anybody joining us there as well. If you want to join us live for future shows also, check out over on YouTube, the Canadian Football Countdown there. Also on Twitch, on our Facebook and Twitter feeds at CF Countdown Pod on those as well. Before we go any further, we always want to acknowledge that the Canadian Football Countdown is brought to you from Treaty 1 territory, traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation, as well as from Treaty 4 territory, traditional territory of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Métis Nation. Now let's bring in the rest of the panel here this evening. We'll switch over the view here because I think they've got some cool things to show off to us. Let's start off with the great Adam Stewart is here, and he's got a shiny thing here for show and tell. Adam, what's describe for our audio listeners what you've got here with you?
Well, this is the Emily Balog Trophy. It's the trophy given out to the winning team of the Sask East Hockey League. And of course, as we said earlier in the podcast last time, we did win the Theodore Buffaloes, the official podcast partner, the CFC Countdown. We told you guys on that one that the Buffaloes did win the trophy. So I thought I'd bring it out tonight and show it off and make sure that all the Winnipeg fans know kind of what they're looking for to try to win this year. I mean, they won't, but, you know, at least they get an idea of what it might look like if they ever get near it.
Touche. Well said. Well said. Joining us here this evening as well with a setup that is now far too professional for the quality this podcast delivers. He's got a nice, fancy microphone arm there. Good setup behind him. Great Trey Colbeck is here. Trey, what's with the new setup?
Yeah, I gotta be professional because starting Saturday, I'm having I guess it's a podcast. Not sure what to call it, but a horse racing news show that's sponsored by my work. So I kind of have to gotta do a little bit, try to make sure it looks professional. I know a lot of people say I've lost my credibility when it comes to CFL, but I do have credibility in harness racing, so I have to pretend like I know what I'm talking about. So yeah, anyone want to learn anything about harness racing? It's going to be very similar to this show live. Only difference is 10 a.m. on Saturdays and 1 p.m. Wednesdays. So check out my Twitter for that if you want to learn about harness racing and stuff. We'll be live just like this. Comment everything. You want to listen to me talk more? Go for it.
Always. And you can follow Trey over on Twitter. What's the handle right now? I know I've got the old one up on the screen. I'll try to update that at some point during the show today. But what's the actual handle now?
At Trey Harnesslink. Harnesslink's the website I work for, harnesslink.com. So yeah, if you want to get into what I complain about, is usually what I get paid for doing these days. So it's a good time.
Hey, not a bad way to make a living, right? Well, we're here, 204 episodes in the podcast. Still going strong. You know, I think we'll keep putting this podcast out there as long as people keep supporting it. So make sure to keep giving us your support. We're taking a new marketing strategy from a local hockey team here in Winnipeg, hashtag Forever CFC. We don't want to promise you quality content, but we expect you folks to tune in anyways. So keep doing that. No, honestly, I know this is a football podcast, but what a joke! What a joke the Winnipeg Jets' new marketing campaign is for a franchise that has not done anything for 12 years. And maybe let's tie that into a topic I'm going to slide in here that came up today, which is the Bombers, the Winnipeg Football Club, announcing today a profit of $4.9 million in 2022. They've been making a fair profit over the past couple of seasons and, are high up in attendance. So is like, what's the strategy for bringing people back into the seats? Because it seems like it's something the Jets are having a problem with here now, but the Bombers have done a fairly good job. Trey, is it as simple as just putting a good product out on the field, the ice, the court, whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, 100%. Not to throw stones, but what teams have had a little bit lack of attendance, one wearing this color that they're not having a little trouble with attendance. Why? Because their product hasn't been the top. Same with the anomaly in the CFL is the East. You could have a team go undefeated, and I think Toronto still won't sell out. But that's just a byproduct of having the Jays in your city too. But you got to do it right. God, Chris, no, Taves can stay away. I'm sorry, my ADHD. If they sign Taves, I'm never watching a Jets game again. That would be the worst thing to do. I get the Winnipeg thing, but God, that's for another time. Mike needs to. If Mike does his hockey podcast, he needs to get me on just so I can complain about the Jets for half an hour to an hour. But you know what? I can handle 3 Grey Cups appearances, and with that loss is because the Bombers just keep making money, man. I was talking about it. What Wade Miller has done, Kyle Walters, I know he's not the office, but, he's still a general manager. O'Shea, really being able to keep guys like, what does Ballsy say? We 4.9 million, all that's going to paying those guys under the table, right? To keep this team together, right? So you can't complain, right, Adam?
Well, I mean, as a Rider fan, you could, but why? Anyway, no, you make a good point, guys. Winnipeg, if you're the Bombers, you're giving them what the fans want. They want a winner. And the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have been that now for 4 years straight, essentially. Other than a blocked field goal, they probably were winning another Grey Cup. So the team's getting what they want. The crowd is absolutely insane in the IGF field right now. And compare this, I think the other thing you got to compare this to, though, for the when you look at the Winnipeg Jets or that, there is a lot of hockey teams in Winnipeg right now. There's the Manitoba Moose. There's the Winnipeg Jets. There's the Winnipeg Ice, who, by the way, are in the tops almost in the WHL every year, and their average attendance is 1,600. Really? I mean, come on. How winning isn't everything, I guess, in Winnipeg, but you got to support the WHL team a little better than that. I get it when Connor Bedard shows up. You guys all want to see him, but take a look in Winnipeg. Jets fans, I mean, you got a chance to show and stick it to the management to say that you guys are a proud part of this, of the Jets this in the playoffs here. Go ahead, do your whiteout, have fun with it. Don't worry about the comments. I know what they said, and you know what? It's bitter, it's ugly, but in my way of looking at it, hey, you still got to prove it. You're one of the smaller teams in stadium size. You know that you're never going to get a favorable position with the commissioner of the NHL, even though he's too busy worrying about what do you call what is it there Tempe minutes Arizona right now.
He'll have 2 teams in Arizona in a couple of years at this rate, man. Don't worry, or another one back in Atlanta. But
I could rant for hours on.
Honestly, we could go on and on, but
this is a football podcast, and I've derailed the start of this.
But real quick to the point what Adam's making, I think it's pretty remarkable that the Bombers are able to do that because we have so much sports. We have a soccer team, a baseball team, a basketball team coming. We got there's always curling going on of some sort. We got golf courses. You have the hockey, whatever, 10 hockey teams. You got the Downs. You got so much stuff going on, and the Bombers have been able to find a way to be the market. That's pretty amazing, I think. So Ryan, what do you have to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, all of the talk seems to be on doom and gloom around attendance, around financials of franchises lately, it seems, right? With the CFL this is a gate-driven league, and we're not bringing enough people into the stands. Well, you have one franchise, at least here, that's showing, 3 straight years during a pandemic where they've made a profit out of it. So, yeah, I'd love to see business models like this, work for the other franchises around the CFL too, is the big thing for me. And the Bombers have done some good things off the field, but a lot of it has been, did good things on the field. You go back to the dark years, that the Joe Mack era, basically, where it was tough to get people into the stands because it's tough to go see a game. You look at franchises like Edmonton and Ottawa, who haven't won a home game in a while, and they're starting to see dwindling results in the stands there as well. You can promise a lot of things off the field, but if you don't deliver the results on the field, that's what's going to bring in a large portion of your fandom, right? Because is it fun going to a game for the experience? Yes, I love going to a game, even if the team I'm rooting for is losing or ends up losing. I enjoy the experience of it, but if it happens over and over again, unless you're a diehard fan, you're going to get a little bit tired and you're going to look at some of those other options out there. So all in all, I think, the key to success in terms of ticket sales is find success out on the field. And that's kind of that's the major thing that I think drives it there. Moving on to our next topic here. The big news around the football community from the past 2 weeks isn't even directly CFL related, but I don't think we can avoid talking about it here. And it's SFU, Simon Fraser University, giving a big FU to its football team and announcing the discontinuation of it. All of the players, that have signed up to begin their football college careers, university careers at Simon Fraser University, maybe made choices to go there over other places, kind of left in question mark land now of what the heck is going to happen with them. Adam, what are your thoughts on this whole situation?
Well, it's sad the way that this all had to go down. I mean, Simon Fraser probably wasn't going to be renewed into their division in NCAA or conference, I believe it was, this next year. They still had 2023 to play, and players were ready to go. I mean, you've got everybody lined out, you got everybody lined up, ready to go, and then all of a sudden at the last minute you decide, nah, we're calling it. We're done. You don't leave your players in a very good place. Your director of or head of athletics, I don't know if it's, I think it's Joy Johnson, if I'm not mistaken, just goes and absolutely just doesn't seem to indifferent on the football situation. I mean, there's always options available. The excuse or the thought of just saying, hey, you know what, the Can West to apply to be in the U Sports, that would have taken too long. That was too big of a process. We didn't want to bother. Come on. If you want to be looked at as a athletic school, you got to go and do whatever's possible to let them play football. If you went and started the application process this year, you ran your team in the NCAA this year, you took your beating or whatever you did, and you moved on next year and went back into U Sports, and let's face it, there's some great rivalries you'd have in there. The UBC Thunderbirds are already right there in the U Sports side of things. I mean, Burnaby to Vancouver is a very, very short drive. Even going and playing teams like the Dinos and the Golden Bears. I mean, why wouldn't you try to do something? That's the really, really disappointing part of all of this. I know that they've had a great record. You pointed out there, Chris, 19-41 in the last while. I get it. I mean, I can see why the NCAA wasn't really wanting to renew them into their conference. But then it comes on the onus of the Simon Fraser University athletic departments to go and figure out something to do to move on, to continue football in there. Because, I mean, they do have a rich history of football in that area. And it's disappointing to see now all of a sudden we're going to have the legal work coming out. I think there's football players that are putting in injunctions, and that's never fun, and nobody wants to really talk about all that, especially on a podcast where we talk a lot about Canadian football. But you know what, it's got to be brought up, and I'm not looking forward to this at all. I mean, I feel bad for the players, I feel bad for the coaches. I mean, I've heard of players being locked out of the locker rooms and all sorts of tough things. It's not the right time for this. It's finals time right now for most universities. In all honesty, what are you guys doing in Simon Fraser right now? Trey, what's your thoughts on this?
as someone who's just wrapping up my 4th year of university, and to hear an athletic director say the process is too difficult, do you know how hard it is to just submit an application to university and student aid and bank loans and get your assignments? And you got to do MLA 12 and a half size time. Like you're going to tell me you put that on your students and you can't even just apply. So what division were they in? Were they Div 2 in NCAA? Div 3? Like they weren't the top div. I didn't think. I don't know. Whatever they were. I mean, to be fair, the fact that they were allowed in NCAA, like, you know how much of a inconvenience border travel is. You know what I mean? Especially with COVID and how hard it was just to play the Raptors and the Blue Jays. And we saw a Canadian division in hockey. I'm not surprised the NCAA kind of said hell with it. But at the same time, like you made a point, Adam, how many teams are there in BC in Canada West, and you're not even going to attempt it? Like at least from a PR standpoint, apply, and then if you're not let in, then you could be like, they didn't let us in. But to say like, I didn't try, I don't know. That just seems, like I said, it's more Bush League than anybody could give the CFL slack for. Like, yeah, sure, their record isn't great, but how many teams probably in Div 3 or Div 2 NCAA probably haven't won a game either in like 10 years? You know what I mean? But they're just on the right side of the border. Ryan?
Yeah, that was the worst part to me, was the comment of, the application process was too complex. And you make a great point about all the complex things the students have to go through. And the students are paying their own money to make those fill in those complex things. Whereas, how many dollars are you getting paid as the athletic director for a big shot university here? Your job is to fill out these complex applications there. So very disheartening to see this, and I feel for those university students and those athletes who, like I kind of said before, how many of these guys had other opportunities that now they're kicking themselves looking back on this of I made the mistake, right, of dedicating my college career and my football future to Simon Fraser University, and now this is what they've done to me. And many of them are looking for other options, and I know there are a lot of people backing them and trying to help them out. I know 3 Down Nation, I saw, was trying to do anything they could to help players out. The CFL themselves and Randy Ambrosie have gotten involved. There's petitions going around to try to bring it back into place. If anything, this might be one of the most rallying moments I've seen from the Canadian football community across the board. You can debate anything with the CFL community, and there will be people on every side of the coin there. I mean, go back to this time last year when every podcast we did was on CBA negotiations and trying to sort through, what is the Canadian game? What is it not? And seems like everybody's now on board with what can we do to support these players and get this football program back into place. And I'm interested to see what the end result of this is, because something's got to give eventually.
No, that's funny. 4 downs doesn't matter now, does it? Like, there's no difference right now when it comes to this, right? No, but you're right, 100%. It's like it'd be nice to see if the CFL rally around other things like this. Like, good on them for doing this, but there's also other things maybe within the league too. 10th team, Toronto, whatever. But that's another day.
Yeah, they were in just so you guys all know, they're in a Lone Star Conference, which is Division 2 NCAA. They're playing teams from West Texas. I mean, they had to drive for some of these games. I mean, they had a 1-9 record last year. Yeah, they weren't very good in this conference. And you know what? Maybe they should drop down to Div 3. But that being said, you recruited players, you scouted players, you gave them an opportunity. And now what all happens? They just, I guess, go away. It's
scholarships
so
dry up now. Like if you decide to scholar, like you would still have your scholarship. Like, I mean, I don't know.
I believe, and I could be remembering incorrectly from what I've read, but I thought I read they were going to try to work with athletes to still honor the scholarships they got. Right. But again, the scholarship means so much different now if you're not going there to play football.
I'll tell you what, though, with the new transfer portal the NCAA has, like, there is options for these guys. Like, you literally just log into a website and say, I'm a free agent and you could be taken. Now these guys are Div 2, so it might not be as simple, and maybe they don't want to go to America, but I'm saying it's not like I'm putting a little out there that there is other options for them. But again, how many of these guys are Canadian that just wanted to stay on this side of the border, right, or closer to the border, and now they're going to go, oh, I got to go to West Texas, or I got to go to like Boise State. Where the hell is that? You can go to these places you've never, Appalachian State. Like, what is that, right? I don't know. I feel bad for them. Yeah. Are they the only school really that's been in a major school that's in an American conference?
I think they are the only one from Canada.
Yeah. But is that going to send a message for other schools to never think about going to the NCAA now? Like,
well,
I don't know.
As well, but that's that. I mean, I think this is more of management on the side of Simon Fraser. I don't think this is the NCAA really doing much other than saying, you guys got to be better than this. We can't put a 1-9 team out there and watch it get folded up every game, right? So I think that's kind of the issue there with the side with the NCAA. That being said, I mean, the NCAA should say, hey, yeah, you did honor till being here till 2023. We'll honor our side. Why aren't you honoring your side?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's complex. I'm sure there's probably some issues that I'm not seeing, but nevertheless,
I bet the border, like I see what you're saying with NCAA, but there's also like 200 and some teams in Div 1 and 2. You're telling me that there aren't a bunch of them that go 1-9 over 3 or 4 years?
Like, I mean, in any league, there's teams that go with records like that.
I don't know for a fact, but you got to tell me that COVID and the border was just a nightmare over the last 2 or 3 years. And they're just like, you know what? We don't want to do it without COVID either, right? Like, you said Western Texas, and they're flying to Vancouver or BC or Seattle, and that just sounds like hell. And when you only have, these kids are still at school, do you really want to be spending 2 days in an airplane trying to cross a border and come back? And, there's a lot to it. I'm not saying they should just be in West or Can West or whatever it's called. That they should be, or whatever. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and logistic-wise, you're right. It's the same thing. I mean, you go try to load up a team and take them across the country, and in this case, practically, it's almost the same distance as driving in Nova Scotia, just going north and south instead of east and west, essentially. So I get it, why the NCAA probably was wanting them out. But that being said, if Simon Fraser or SFU knew about this, work on getting a solution made. Don't go and drag it out into the media and drag it out into the public. Get something done and move on. Say, hey, we're going out of the NCAA. It sucks, we know, but we have this opportunity somewhere else, right?
Yeah, like to me, it's okay. You got kicked off the court. I'm taking my ball and going home is the answer. It's not, okay, I'm going to go find a different court, right? Like there's a ton of different opportunities out there that maybe they explored, but they just haven't explained that very well. But these other conferences to go and play in, you look at your role as an athletic director, department for a university, that's also a big part of recruiting people to come to your university. Athletes wanting to come be part of the athletic experience weighs a lot on people's decisions to attend maybe one university over another. And if your solution here is, we're just not going to have a football team at all, well, to me, that's not helping with recruiting at all, because now, even if let's say they turn things around now and they find a place they reinstate the football team, they find a place to play. If I'm an up and coming, high school student that's looking at a college career, am I going to trust Simon Fraser University after what I just saw? Or if I have other opportunities, I'm probably looking elsewhere. So, we hope for a good resolution here, but surely some of the reputation of this football program has to be damaged by what's happened here.
No question. I mean, if you're a team or a player that's now wanting to think about even going to Simon Fraser, it don't matter if it's going to be with it going to BU Sports or going to stick in or going to Div 3 NCAA or going sticking around in Div 2. Players are going to look at that and say, you know what? They tried to fold on us once. Are they going to try to do it again? And in that case, can you blame them? I mean, in all honesty, if somebody's offering you a good contract or good offer to go to school. Schooling is schooling. I mean, in the end, you can get a very good quality degree or a diploma from the University of Saskatchewan as you can from the from what do you call going to Oshawa. I mean, no matter where you're going, if you want to go to Waterloo and get a good university, it really, the university is university. You're going to get a good education no matter where you go. In the end, it depends on the program, I think, more than anything. And when you have a program that's proven a reputation, it's a winning program and that is going to stick around and be with you, or one that says, well, at the slightest problem, we're going to give up and we're not trying to get a solution. I think I know which one I'd probably end up at, but that's me. Trey?
I'll tell you what, if I got accepted to the University of Winnipeg, anyone could get accepted to the University of Winnipeg. So, we don't have a football team, but we got a pretty good basketball team. So, come try it out.
Well, moving on to our next topic here, one we've had, over our past couple of roundtables, we've talked a little bit about how the CFL is working on an American TV deal, and some new rumors, news, talk from Randy Ambrosie came out this past couple of weeks that I'm surprised by this one. They are looking at a direct-to-consumer streaming service for their American broadcast deal. I'm pretty sure when we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned that I didn't foresee a streaming deal on the horizon at all for the CFL because it does not seem like they're in the modern digital space. But looks like this is something they're working on for the American deal, with it as kind of a trial run for perhaps a future Canadian deal once their deal with TSN is up. I think it's like 2025, 2026, something like that. So a couple more years where they're locked in with Bell and TSN. Let's go back to you here, Trey. What do you think of this potential streaming deal with the American side?
I like it if it comes true. My only question is, I see where you were just said with the contract. I feel like you should have it in Canada first. Like you should have had this in Canada 5-6 years ago, and then go to America. You're kind of doing it. What's that? Bass backwards. But it's fine. It's great. Yeah, I'm just more pissed off. Why does America get everything cool? Why is their Netflix better? Why do they get a better potential CFL streaming deal? Like, that just kind of is annoying, but it's great. Expand the game. I'm sure this will lead to other things, with the whole Mexico talk and Europe talk and other things that have been going on. It should lead to better and greater things. I just kind of think you need to focus on domestic a little bit more, Randy, than just CFL 2, because this kind of feels CFL 2.0 still to me, or whatever number we're at, 3.0, 4.0 by now. But yeah, and I'm just really interested in what the next Canadian deal is going to be more, because I think we keep seeing more and more these other markets might. Because, okay, to me, there's a whole backlash about the green St. Patrick's Day thing, right? To me, if I was Sportsnet and I potentially wanted the CFL, wouldn't I throw them a bone? Wouldn't I say, see, we put the Rough Riders, we put the Elks, but they didn't. So to me, that points towards that CBC and Sportsnet don't want it. We're happy with hockey and Blue Jays and half the Raptor games. That's what and some curling. So I think that we need to figure out Canada and the streaming deal. And you got Crave with Bell. You got some things you can play with. And I'm pretty sure the NFL, is it the NFL that has a pretty big YouTube deal starting next year too? So there's a lot of streaming markets available. I mean, maybe YouTube doesn't want to pay the CFL anything, but you might have to just take a hit on something a little bit here and there to figure it out. Adam, what do you think about this?
Well, I'm going to be the devil's advocate tonight because I do not like this streaming deal one bit. Direct to consumer means that you are already knowing what the CFL is, and hey, I like the CFL, I'm going to buy it. A lot of Americans don't know what the CFL is, plain and simple. You go out to Memphis, Tennessee, and ask a guy, hey, have you ever heard of the Canadian Football League? Unless you run into a former player, probably not. You walk into Alabama, even. There'll be a few guys. I mean, if you happen to run into Trent Richardson on the street, he might be able to tell you about the CFL. But I'll tell you right now, there's not the following in the CFL that there needs to be. They need to go with a major streaming service first. Go with Netflix. Go with, like you said before, maybe Crave. I don't know how much they are in the U.S. yet. Go with maybe Paramount Plus. Go with some of these other ones. Peacock, for example. I know they got lots of the WWE stuff. Go with a proven streamer that you can get that for free by just joining that streaming service along with everything else with it. Make the CFL into the CFL network as a package, right? You know how they did it with, again, I always look at wrestling because, man, when they switched over to having these where you had all the games archived and you had all the matches archived, you had all these pay-per-views were archived, you could watch any of that, and it was only for $10. That was cool. But everybody knew what the WWE was before this all happened. The CFL, again, like I said before, is not known in the United States, except for maybe Baltimore. I mean, they'll probably show you a Grey Cup. Other than that, not many guys know about the CFL. So going direct to consumers is not the answer. Going with another, like I say before, going with a proven streamer like Netflix and going and offering them for a very reasonable deal just so people can get exposed to your product, I think is way better than just going direct to consumers and, oh, well, if they heard of the CFL, they might buy us.
Well, right? So that's where I'm a little confused on this, because I thought direct to consumer streaming meant streaming through something along the lines of Netflix, YouTube, etc. But you're saying it's a standalone thing?
To me, I would think when you say direct, I mean, if I'm saying I'm going through a third party, which would be Netflix or whoever, right? Or I say direct to consumer. Direct to consumer is almost like I say before, the WWE Network. They made their own thing. They brought their own streaming service. You can subscribe to it and watch all this old archive stuff, plus also all the live events now and all the cool things like that. But that to me is a direct to consumer thing. When you're talking on this, it doesn't seem like that seems like the CFL wants to do the same thing. But again, what are you offering the customer? Are you just offering them, hey, come watch every CFL game that's current? Are you going to offer them the ability to watch any Grey Cup they ever wanted? Yeah. Are you going to allow them to watch any game they ever wanted to see from before that you have archives of? If you're offering that kind of stuff, as a diehard CFL fan, gimme. But if you're a casual fan or a guy that's never heard of the Canadian Football League, are you really going to be enticed to pay $10 a month, $15 a month just to check out something new that you never heard of?
Okay, so I looked it up here. So I searched, is Netflix a direct-to-consumer streaming service on Google? And the main article that popped up mentioned that the lion's share of direct-to-consumer growth is from Disney, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Hulu. And that's an article from symphonymedia.com. So I think they do count as direct-to-consumer streaming deals. So that's a big difference. I think that's two distinct different things that we're talking about here. Because I agree with you. If it's just a CFL only offering in the States, yeah, not very many people are going to find it. But if it's on one of these big streaming platforms like Netflix, for example, you are far more likely to have people find it as a suggestion on Netflix than find it on their local TV cable guides.
What I don't understand is who is our American partner right now? ESPN, right?
Yeah.
In America, ESPN Plus comes in a package with Disney Plus and Hulu. So you have it right there. You could have it right there. So I don't know if it's with someone other than ESPN. I'm a little confused because they literally, you can't get it in Canada. Like you can't get ESPN Plus or Hulu in Canada, but Hulu shows, the ESPN shows come on Disney Plus to me sometimes. So why don't you just put it on ESPN Plus? And then there's a roundabout way of potentially trying to get it. Like, you know how much the switch would be to put it in Canada in a few years when that TSN deal is done? To me, that just seems like the simple solution. If that's what direct to TV, whatever, what it counts as. But you're right. If the direct to TV is its own thing, I literally just bought a UFC Fight Pass the other day because I thought it would be cool. Because I'm a UFC fan. If I wasn't a UFC fan, why would I buy UFC Fight Pass? No point, right? But I thought it was going to be the I think it's going to be ESPN. Like that's kind of been the main one, our main supporter down there for however long, right?
Could be, but my thing is this: it also depends how you're going to market this thing afterwards. Yeah, you could put it on ESPN Plus and put it on Hulu or put it on Disney Plus or whatever it is, but in the end, if you just throw it out there and see what happens with it and pretty much throw it out there and don't talk about it, are people still going to watch? I mean, you know what? The USFL did the best thing they ever could have a little while ago by going and saying, we've got real football. Because that stirred a hornet's nest over with every XFL person in the world. As much as they didn't want to say it, it did a big part of that to help build up their promotional. Even today, I was watching the rules about the USFL and seeing that kind of thing, and that was kind of cool. But it was because they went and they put, we've got real football coming up. It was good advertisement. It was good at marketing. The CFL is not known for marketing things. Yeah, you can put a direct-to-consumer thing on ESPN. If you ain't going to do nothing with it or ain't going to talk about it, what's the point?
We've got a comment here in the chat on the topic of American TV deals and leagues here. It's week 9 of the XFL, and the USFL kicks off both in the same weekend. I haven't been following the XFL numbers too much in recent weeks. I was more in tune with it early on, but surely competition is, if they're happening at the same time, people are going to pick one over the other there, you would think, right? So I think it will affect the numbers there, how significantly, and which one comes out on top. Well, that will be an interesting thing to see. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
If I was a betting man, those two leagues are gonna whichever one's bigger is gonna absorb the other one in 2-3. If one survives and the other one doesn't, they'll somewhat absorb it. If they both fail, right? The Rock probably isn't losing much sleep over it. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I didn't realize their seasons overlap that much. I thought the point of the XFL starting the week after the Super Bowl so it wouldn't overlap that much, but it's XFL playoffs. Do they win out a little bit over USFL? And I felt like some of the rules sounded the exact same as the XFLs, right? So I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. Do you really think there's an appetite for this outside of St. Louis and a few of the diehard markets? Is there an appetite for this?
No, I don't think
so.
I look at it like, again, it's like the CFL in a way, right? I mean, all of us care about every team in the league, but I mean, in reality, if you're in Montreal, do you really care what's going on with the BC Lions? Not as much, probably, right? If you're a casual fan. But that being said, those teams have been well established, so they're okay. You look at an XFL, the St. Louis Battlehawks just came in. Other than me knowing that they're called the Battlehawks, I know absolutely nothing about that team. Same thing. I know that there's a team called the Houston Roughnecks. That's about all I know. Because it doesn't really affect me. I'm not a guy that's going to just turn on a XFL game just for the sake of turning on an XFL game to watch something, because I've got so many other things I could probably enjoy and watch and that I'll enjoy just as much, for example.
And that draws it back into this whole CFL deal too, right? Is exactly what we've been talking about. If you have no interest in the league, unless you have some reason, like most people aren't just randomly going to check it out.
I want to point out this. I want to see what actually happens here. You've got probably some of the bigger football being played right now in the XFL in week 9 here for what do you call standings and for playoff pictures. The NHL has their draft lottery here, May the 5th? I want to see which one actually wins out in that for ratings. Is there going to be a bunch of people watching who's the worst or who's baddest for Bedard, or are they going to actually get a better rating? And this is usually just a streamed over on the NHL network from Sportsnet. So I want to see what happens here. This will be real interesting to see who wins that one.
Well, I stopped watching the NHL draft lottery after Edmonton won it every year. I got tired of it.
Edmonton can't win it this year, so I'm good.
I'd say to that, in Canada, do the Canadians have a shot at it still or no? Yeah. That's what I mean. In Canada, that's no contest. In America, unless you're see, this is so bad because, I'll be honest. I'm a pretty big CFL fan, but I've watched the most non-Blue Bomber games of the last year. only because of this podcast. And I felt like I kind of had to, so I knew what I was talking about half the time. Before that, I love the CFL. I'll check to see who won. I'll check to see stats and that. But did I watch every game? No. If I literally only pay TSN so I could watch road Bomber games, would I pay for it to watch the other 3 games a week? No, not really, right? So, and I'm a diehard fan. You could probably not by some people's definitions if I'm not willing to pay for a streaming service, but I like to think I am. I went to the Grey Cup in shorts. You tell me who's done that, right? So, I mean, I don't know. It's
my dad.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, see, Chris said he's in Vancouver and he's got coworkers heading down to Seattle because the tickets are cheap. Well, but is
that what's selling the game? Is it cheap tickets selling it, or is it?
I don't know.
What draws you to a Sea Dragons game?
Is that just the culture of the area where Vancouver and Seattle, like that's what I mean. So many people from Vancouver are Mariner fans. They're Seahawk fans. They're back in the day they were what was the basketball team? The Sonic fans. You know what I mean? That area was that, right? I guess there was the Grizzlies too, but you know what I mean? Like there was a lot going on in that area. So is that just a cultural thing? Because what's the closest American market to us? I don't care what Minnesota's doing because that's a 10-hour drive for me, right? Like the only time I'll go to Minnesota is when the Jays play, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, but is that just a cultural thing because Vancouver and Seattle are that close to each other? Like that's a good point, Chris, but like I bet there's only one person that's watched every XFL game, and that's probably Reed from the Markcast. And other than that, I don't really know who's watched every XFL game.
Yeah, and when we remember also that when BC hosted the West semifinal this year, lots of guys from Seattle and everything were coming up to watch the BC Lions. So,
yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on to our next topic here. This one is near and dear to your heart, Trey. It has to be because he's your favorite quarterback in the CFL. One Chad Kelly of the Toronto Argonauts made a name for himself in the media this week once again, appearing on a big podcast down south in the States. I believe it was Pardon My Take podcast, correct? Second time since the Grey Cup. Huge football podcast, huge sports podcast, mentioning the CFL. That's one way, I guess, to market the CFL to folks. But a couple of interesting comments. He did get a couple of NFL looks, supposedly. Cleveland and Carolina looking at him. Adam, your Cleveland Browns could have jumped on Chad Kelly, number 1 quarterback in the CFL. Could have had him. And so that was a comment from him. And then he also had some interesting comments about his contract status with the Toronto Argonauts. Paraphrasing here, saying, I was on a garbage contract and still am. And talking about how it's all incentive-based and, not really getting the guaranteed money there in his contract in the CFL that maybe he can get in some of these other leagues. But also that he has an agent that kind of steered him to playing in the CFL because it's been around for longer. It's a longer season with 20 games on the schedule. So, this is clearly a guy that wants to get back to the NFL. And he's here in the CFL right now. Not a great contract, but a chance this year to maybe do something with it. Trey, over to you.
We missed our opportunity, man, because he followed me right after that. We could have got him on our podcast, and he could have said that here. But I thought I made my point clear. You guys understood it. The stupid trolls on Twitter that don't actually watch anything and just decide to comment but then never reply because their 5 followers care so much don't understand what I was kind of doing. It's not a joke, but like I had my point. He won. He was the winning quarterback. He had that game. Is he an NFL quarterback? Hell no. Hey, baby, can you come here for a second? Come here. Sorry, I'm going to get my girlfriend to get me some water while I rant. But can you get me some water, please, baby? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Sorry, my rant here. I thought I was going to mute, but then you got me ranting before she walked away. Is he an NFL quarterback? No, I don't think so. I haven't seen anything that shows me he's an NFL quarterback. 1 drive. Okay, sure. That's one thing. 2, garbage contract. You're in the CFL. What contract isn't somewhat bonus based? You know what I mean? Dane Evans took a pay cut to go to BC. Vernon Adams took a pay cut to go there. Okay, unless you're Collaros or Bo, nobody's getting sweet deals. You know what I mean in this league. So what are you? There, I put him number one for my reason, but it seems like nobody loves Chad Kelly more than Chad Kelly. And you know what? That's the attitude you might have to be a professional athlete. Nobody loves LeBron more than LeBron. No one loves Jordan more than Jordan. No one loves Woods more than Woods. You got to have that killer instinct. But those guys that I just listed, guess what? They backed it up. Tiger Woods couldn't even walk, and he's trying to play the Masters. You know, Jordan, I don't know, 6 championships. LeBron, all what he did. This guy, you had one drive. You got lucky that Leggio couldn't kick a 10-yard field goal to save his life, and you got lucky. Could he prove me wrong? Sure. Is he the next Nathan Rourke? No. Nathan Rourke's going to he's going to finish his career with way more passing touchdowns in the NFL than Chad Kelly will. Like 100%, Adam, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. You know what? I look at it though as Chad Kelly, and I'm going to probably get banned from Chad Kelly right away because I'm going to say it this way. You had a lot of players come up to this league. Ask Paxton Lynch. Ask
who?
What do you call Johnny Football?
Who?
Ask all these guys. Trent Richardson, who I mentioned earlier in this thing. How many of these guys have actually succeeded in the CFL? You know what? Worry about the CFL. If you want your shot at the NFL, I hope you get it. I honestly hope that Chad Kelly gets a shot at the NFL. There's some very terrible quarterbacks that are starting in the NFL right now, and there's some pretty rough backups there. One in New York included. But nevertheless, I look at it as, hey, you know what? Yes, you've got a terrible contract. You've said this already, Trey. I'm just kind of repeating what you said. You've got a terrible contract. You've got a terrible situation. You don't want to be in the CFL. You want to be in the NFL. Good on you. But you know what? Like Trey just said, prove it. If you can prove it, you can bring in the game. You win the MOP this year, and then you go on and win the Grey Cup. Guess what? There'll be NFL teams knocking at your door. And I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. In the meantime, focus on the CFL. Don't worry about what the NFL has to offer. Focus on this league. Embrace this league while you can. And hey, if you do good, you might move on. Ask Nathan Rourke all about that. He seemed to work for him. If you can play pretty good football, the NFL kind of looks at you. So it's as simple as that. You don't need to go on a podcast and tell everybody that you're got a terrible contract and there was teams looking at me, but they aren't really sure. And don't worry about any of that stuff. If you want to be smart and want to play good football, play in the NFL one day, all you got to do is just simply say, I'm here in the CFL. I'm going to win a Grey Cup for these Argos. I'm going to be one of the best players on this team, and I'm going to prove it. That's all you got to do. Pretty simple.
He better win MOP because I'll keep receipts and screenshot everyone that said I was crazy on my number one list. I'll say, DM, what about me now? You know?
Trey Colbeck, official head of the Chad Kelly Hall of Fame discussion.
I wouldn't go that far, but I'll just be sitting on it. But I heard a good quote. I heard a great quote. I don't know where I heard it, so I don't want to steal it. But Usain Bolt, he trains 4 years to run 9 seconds. So don't give up after a couple months, right? And I'm not saying Chad Kelly's given up, but focus on what you have, right? Usain Bolt could be worrying about this, could be about that. No, he's just worrying day in, day out to run that 9 seconds. So if you want the NFL, that's fine. But what are you going to do tomorrow to make that happen? Not go on some. The only podcast you should go on if you're going to run your mouth is the McAfee one. If you're not on the McAfee one, don't say anything stupid. You know, just keep it professional. So
I should also add, didn't we have a certain Vince Young that signed with a certain team and never even got to the field? He got to a practice game?
I mean, if we're talking about players that have signed places and never hit the field, I have $70,000 in Winnipeg still handed over to Darian Durant. So
I knew that wasn't going to happen.
That was well spent.
That was the cheapest shot. Like, that's what I would do if I was about to retire. Oh, I'd sign with the Rough Riders. Say, oh yeah, we're good. Don't worry about 10 years or however long of being rivals. Oh, by the way, I'm retiring. Once I cash my check, like that's what I would do too to the Riders. So I get it.
Nevertheless.
But
I'm just excited for the season to get underway and to see what Kelly can do out there on the football field, because we've had all of this talk this offseason of, is he going to be able to live up to the hype that seems to be surrounding him in the media? And I just want to see how it translates out on the field. And I'm already slotting him in to Trey in the first round in my fantasy mock draft for our fantasy league this season.
Ooh, you know what? Not in that one, but if we do the podcast, like against the other podcast guys again, I bet he won't have too high of a value. There's no way he's gonna have a high value. Like
you going for it week one?
Oh, maybe because Bo and Caleros are gonna come out with like 12,000 or something stupid. I bet, right?
Probably. The pricing in CFL fantasy.
Maybe a lot of dump passes to Olette and Harris. I don't know. That's tempting.
Now you guys got me excited for fantasy. Thanks.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. Hey, we're just around the corner, under 2 months till the start of CFL regular season. We talked about Kelly, trying to work his way back to the NFL. A guy that seemed like he was on path to head to the NFL is sticking in Canada, and he's sticking around, at least for now, it seems, for the next 3 years. Wide receiver Keon Schaefer-Baker signing through 2025 with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. No, he had an injury. If I remember correctly, maybe had surgery this offseason, might not be ready to go for the start of this season at least, but he was a huge piece of that wide receiver core last season. They've moved on from a couple of the pieces there, Kyron Moore, Shaq Evans, Duke Williams, all gone. I know they brought in Jake Winicky, and who's the other one that I'm missing here? Who's the other big name they brought in?
Darrell Walker.
Darrell Walker, that's the other one. But Schaefer-Baker, in my opinion, when healthy, is probably a better receiver than both of those guys and can be the number one guy for this team. So, Adam, you're the one wearing the green hat here. Are you happy with this deal?
Absolutely, I'd be happy with this deal. He's a Canadian. I mean, he's proven now and again that he can be one of the top guys in this league as a Canadian receiver. If you aren't happy with this Saskatchewan, what's wrong with you? This is what you need to continue that rebuild that needs to happen in Saskatchewan. You've got other guys coming up that he'll lead the way with them, like Sam Emelis. You've got Braden Lenius on the other side as well that I should mention. And you've got a great Canadian core starting. You don't quite have the Canadian Air Force back yet, but gee, you sure got a few good pieces right now in Saskatchewan in the receiving core. And if Trevor Harris can find some of these guys and can make some connections early with some of these folks, I think we're going to have a pretty good wide receiving core. And the fact that you've got now Keon Schaefer-Baker for an extra 2 years, that's never a bad thing. That means you don't have to worry about the NFL for at least 2 years. And by that point, maybe it's that time where he signs the long-term deal, stays a Rough Rider for life. It's a good deal all around. Keon Schaefer-Baker gets another maybe crack in a year or two after he's recovered from that little bit of a knee surgery that he's had during the offseason here. And the Riders get him for 2 years, which kind of gets him through a transition a little bit. Trey?
No, for the Riders' sake, that's great. I feel bad for him because obviously the NFL's the goal, right? I feel bad for him on that sense, but other than that, yeah. Hard to not say the Riders could have the second or third best receiving core in the league. It's hard to go put anyone against the Bombers on paper right now, but after that, man, Labor Day Banjo Bowl could be fireworks, at IG Field and Mosaic, with the receiving cores these teams have, and who knows what Harris could do, with this team. I don't mind it. I like it. Now, do you think that they did enough on the offensive line to give Harris the time to throw it to these guys is the next question. But we'll find out in June and July, I guess, because I'm a little worried that by about mid-July, August, somewhere in there, people are going to be like, maybe it wasn't Fajardo's fault. Maybe, I think Harris might be staring at that blue Saskatchewan sky a lot, or into the turf, whichever way Willie Jefferson decides to throw him into the ground, right? So that's my biggest focus, that old line. Things could piece together. It could work out, and if it does, heck, you're gonna have options and shake and bake. He always seems to have the Bombers number. He always has big games. He's a fantasy go-to guy. Hard to not be. Like I said, I would have loved for him to stick somewhere in the NFL. Shame that it's injuries, but that's football, right?
And
For
the
me,
other
the biggest
thing
thing is sorry.
I was just going to mention, anybody else can't wait till June 16th?
Yeah.
Oh,
Home
yeah.
opener for the Riders, Bombers, Riders. Should
Yeah.
be a good one.
Do they play each other week 1?
Week 2 or week 3, because I think the Riders get a bye right off the bat, and then.
But interesting, an early season game between Winnipeg and Saskatchewan. Excited for that one.
How stupid am I that I didn't know that? Like, is that how busy I've been? I forgot we play the Riders that early.
Yeah, we will
Crazy.
Closer to the season have a whole episode where we're going to break down the schedule and the interesting points from it. But yeah, no, I had no idea on that either. But what I was going to say about the Riders here.
Sorry, we play them in the preseason here, and then 2 weeks into this, we do. So there's a lot of Rough Riders plus Labor Day Banjo Bowl. Good God.
Oh boy.
And probably November again, because, but anyway, sorry, Ryan.
The big thing I was going to say with Schaefer Baker is that, Canadian wide receiver, one of the best receivers in the league last year. He's around for a couple more years. It's nice to see these Canadian players making a prominent impact at positions like this because, I throw Nick Dembski, I throw Curly Gittens Jr. into that category, some other guys there as well. You could go down the list of notable players making impacts there. And that's nice to see that we're not just burying the Canadian spot and treating him as the number 5 receiver on the team or the number 4 receiver. You've got your 4 stud Americans and then, an average Canadian to fill the slot. No, he is going to be one of the leading receivers on this team. He was one of the most exciting players to watch last season. So, hey, keep him in the league longer. I'm just shocked he didn't end up in the NFL. I think he had something like 16 workouts, almost half the league there. That took a look at him. Nobody took a chance on him. That's surprising to me that with that many, nobody brought him in.
Oh, if I was Jacksonville, I'd put him up with Rourke or something. I think that would be a deadly combination. And even with Lawrence, I would like that. It might just be that unfortunate CFL bias a little bit. Like, I know it's getting better with Singleton and Rourke, but it's still not, this ain't the Flutie days. You know what I mean? This is a little different, right? So, but yeah, Adam?
Yeah, no, when I look at it, I think maybe that injury was already starting sometime in there, and guys were just a little bit nervous about bringing him in, especially if they would have to put him on IR right away. I think that might have done it in for Keon Schaefer Baker there a little bit. No, he definitely could be an NFL receiver. He's got the size, he's got the height, he's got the speed. And hey, he's a playmaker. Just ask Rob Black. So yeah, it's a shame that he really didn't get a great opportunity in the NFL. I mean, he got 16 teams that looked at him, but yeah, I think there was something else up with that. It didn't make any sense why he never got picked up by another team. So
one final quick topic here before we get into our top 5 countdown is, and this was brought up in the chat earlier by Chris, one of our viewers here, is that the BC Lions unveiled new jerseys today. I'm not sure if you guys have had a chance to actually see the pictures of them. Home jerseys are black with orange trim on them. And I think the most interesting part to me is the away jersey is not white, it's gray. Which, kind of goes away from what we've traditionally seen from jerseys across most sports leagues in the past, which is you wear white jerseys on the road. I think the jerseys look nice. I like them. What do you guys think, Adam?
Yeah, no, I really like the gray one, especially because it gives that 1993, 1994 kind of Louis Pasaglia kind of look to him a little bit, especially the writing on him kind of really looks like it's a little bit older of a jersey, and it just kind of gives you that retro feeling. And hey, they had some good luck in those days with Wally Guano as their head coach, and I'm kind of excited to see what they can actually do in them. I just hope they don't get rid of those matte black kind of jerseys that they had. Those matte ones are just like really, really sharp, and I like the BC Lions matte black jersey. The gray one really looks good. Hamilton might have a few words about that because I think they've done gray ones before. And then the black ones, they kind of look like most of the BC Lion jerseys. Again, it's a little bit of a retro kind of British Columbia kind of writing on it that I kind of liked. But yeah, I like the gray one more than the black one, but I think they call it the fog jersey or something along those lines. So I don't know. The gray one's my choice. Trey, you're muted.
Thank you, boys. I was gonna say those gray ones almost look like tie cat ones to me. If it wasn't for the orange, like in certain, I'm looking at that. The orange almost looks like the yellow, and that could be a straight rip off of the tie cat ones. But I don't know. See, I like those old when you're gonna go not traditional white away. I like the bombers when they had the gold a few years ago. I like those a little bit. See, maybe it's the baseball in me, but if you're gonna go gray. You know, like the base because baseball road jerseys are gray, but they're gray, right? Like they're dark gray. Like and then away home jerseys are what the same thing but white. There's real no difference in baseball jerseys. So I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the orange. Like maybe that's just my. I'll be honest. That's my Blue Bomber bias. I like blue. I like the Blue Jays. I like the Jets navy. You know, I kind of like the blue color. Those orange teams, I kind of go, that's too colorful for me, kind of personally. But hey, honestly, I've heard nothing but great things from BC fans, so that's all that matters, right, Ryan?
And I just wanted to bring up one quick little thing. Can we please get a black jersey for the Saskatchewan Roughriders for nights out late night?
Yeah.
Like, just get me a black with green stripes. That's all I ask for.
And, well, that's what
you know,
I was just thinking with the BC jersey as well. Is does BC play that game in Saskatchewan? Who do they play on that one?
I think it's Toronto.
Oh, okay.
I think. I honestly can't remember on that one. I'd have to look. But even then, please give me a black Riders jersey once more.
Oh, yeah.
Get me the black helmet with the Green Rider logo on the side of it. I would be thrilled to see that at our lights out night in Saskatchewan. That would look just amazing.
Ooh, a promo idea. The dark blacks for you guys. Blue Bombers come in with the white out, all whites, and they play that game.
Black and white game. I like it.
As I think the Bombers miss an opportunity. I know you don't want to steal things from another team, but they kind of used the whiteout a little bit in the playoffs. I don't know why we don't kind of dig into that whiteout a little bit more and have all white jerseys, and because they had the all blues this year with the pants and everything. I like that. Go all white and then the all black Rough Riders. I could get down for that.
Yeah, Winnipeg should really just go and tell all of their sports teams, whether it's the Golden Eyes or the Ice or the whoever it is, whenever you're playing a playoff game, it's white.
Yeah,
that's it.
Well, the Bombers didn't they do that in the Grey Cup the past couple of years when they were even when they were the home team, they wanted to wear white because in 2019 they wore white and won it. But yeah, you're right, they didn't really market it big time around that there. But no, these BC jerseys, I like them. They look sharp. I like seeing new jerseys, different colors. Interested to see how they match up, on the screen or on the field with the other uniforms out there around the league. All right, final big segment of the show. It's our new favorite segment. It's the one where we come up with controversial opinions that people then tell us are wrong afterwards, and we all strive to be the one who's the least wrong.
That's the point of this? Oh, I've been playing it wrong. Oh, man. Okay.
Now, we'll figure it out eventually here.
We're all figure.
Just if you have less than 10 followers, I don't want to hear your opinion. I'm going to tell you that right now. I don't want to hear it, and those 10 people don't want to hear it. Thank you.
Last time out, we counted down the top 5 CFL offseason roster moves. The votes came in. Our guest Jason from Hussey's Huddle had the most votes, so people agreed with him most. Trey, you came in second in that one, and Adam and I tied for last. So
is that back-to-back seconds, I think, eh? Oh boy,
I think so. Yeah,
mad at the people, baby, mad at the people.
Yeah, I'm definitely not in that category. I think I'm finished last so far. We'll see if people agree with my list here today. We're counting down the top 5 current CFL running backs. And we'll start at number 5, work our way up to number 1. Adam, you chose this topic this time around, so kick us off with your number 5.
Well, I'm going to play a little bit of trivia with you guys while we're doing this because I went and I got some stats of the guys, and I'm going to give the name after I give all the stats and all the features about this guy. First of all,
I want to go to bed tonight yet, right?
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. I forgot about the bed and the sleeping thing. But anyways, the UCF night He's 5'10", 180, had a 7.81 yard per carry average, but only carried it for 164 yards this year. But that's because he's only had 21 carries all season. If you don't know who I'm talking about, it's the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Greg McCrae. I think the guy's an awesome running back. I think you just haven't played him because, again, you can't get him on the roster for part-time. You put him as a receiver. I mean, he had 164 yards receiving as well. It just seemed like you couldn't really utilize him the way he should have been. And honestly, he is a very, very good running back. A 7.81 yard per carry average, and yet you're putting in Oliveira. Yeah, I think maybe there should be a little bit of changes in Winnipeg, but that's because, you know what, I just never did really care for Brady Oliveira. So yeah, my first one's Greg McCrae.
And Adam has thrown this whole thing off the rails with the very first pick by picking a guy who's not even playing the running back position.
That's what I was going to say. You before the show, you said Mike Miller doesn't count at fullback, but we could play the receiver that gets handed off the ball sometimes.
Yeah, the exact same yards on the receiver as he did for.
I don't know. I think we might have to throw the challenge flag on this. I thought he wasn't on the team anymore.
I'll review this. Trey, you give us your number 5 pick.
Well, I'm going to go a little bit different stat here. Do we have any Iron Maiden fans? Any Iron Maiden fans? Does anyone know what the number of the beast is? I found this interesting. Anyone know? Okay, anyone know the number? What's the devil's number? Come on, guys. It's 666, and that's how many yards my number 5 guy had rushing. I'm going to Jamal Morrow. I tried. I thought that was crazy. 666 yards. You couldn't hand him off the ball one more time, or at least take a yard back from him. Why are we leaving the season with that number? But thank you, Chris. We got one Iron Maiden fan here. Jeez, that band's awesome, guys. But I liked what he did in Saskatchewan. Oh, you pissed me off, Matt. I was gonna take McCrae, but I tried following the rules. But I'll take. I'm throwing off. Let's just move on to Ryan. I don't know what else. I'm sorry, Morrow. I feel like I'm disrespecting you right now.
I looked up the Bombers roster. Greg McCrae, assuming the roster on their website is up to date, is listed on there and is listed as a running back. So, Adam, we will allow you to stick with what you have picked there. Now the question is the website up to date? And that they've got Kenny Lawler on there. So I guess, yes, it is. So Greg McCrae is in at number 5 for Adam, Jamal Morrow for Trey. I've got James Butler in at number 5 for me. A guy, before I dug deep into, the different options here to try to come up with this list, I originally was thinking, James Butler I have higher up on my list. But then I started realizing all of the good options out there. And I think he is still a very good running back. He was only one of 2 guys hit over 1,000 yards last season, put up almost 400 through the air, 4 touchdowns there. The one thing I think leads to his stats being higher than most guys is that he was the only running back on the team, whereas you have a 1-2 split on a lot of these other teams, which puts guys lower down there. So, and now he's going over to Hamilton. Is he going to get the usage in Tommy Condell's offense? I don't know. I hope he does because I think he is a really good player. But tough decisions to make, and I put James Butler at number 5, but very deserving of a spot in that top 5, in my opinion. We also got Mike to send us in our picks as well. He couldn't be here tonight, but he did send in his list. He put Toronto's AJ Ouellette in at his number 5 slot on his list there. So we move on to number 4. Let's go over to you first this time, Trey.
We're going to go to, since Adam's pulling out stats and stuff, we got to try to do that. I'm going with high school Oak Park's finest, Brady Oliveira at number 4. I'll tell you a little secret. Harris is not on my top 5. I think Oliveira is better. I think he was underutilized too. I'm so mad at Adam because now every time I try to say something nice about Oliveira, I'm like, McCrae's better. But I classified him as a receiver. So, but anyway, Oliveira, and he helps out a lot of dogs in the city, right? He's got a big dog guy out in the city, so I got to throw him on the list. I think he could do. I think with that whole line in front of him, he's going to have some damage playing that weak sauce Rough Rider defense 3 times this year. I think Oliveira. He did have over 1,000 rushing yards on the year. It was a quiet one though. I'm not sure if maybe Ryan, because the guy who sits at all 10 home games like I do, did you really feel like Oliveira rushed for that many yards?
He had a really slow start to the year, right? He picked it up as the season went along.
Yeah, but it's still near the end. You're like kind of like, and maybe it's just with the rotation, you never quite know who's actually in there unless you're really looking for the number. But yeah, Brady Oliveira, Winnipeg's finest. Adam?
Well, I couldn't go with Brady Oliveira, and there's reasons behind that. I just look at him as he had 18 games, and he cracked 1,000, but you should when you play all 18 games in a season. My number 4 pick is from the Liberty Flames. Had 13 games, 85 carries. Had 6 carries a game only, but averaged 6.3 yards per carry, and had the league's longest run this year at 63-yard touchdown. I'm going with Frankie Hickson of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. I hate doing this to Jamal Morrow. I honestly do. The guy has worked his tail off to try to get a starting position in Saskatchewan, but I think Frankie Hickson is a little better, unfortunately. So to me, Frankie is going to really compete hard, and that's going to be one of those battles in training camp that I'll be watching for sure. Who gets the number 1, who gets the number 2 spot. And I really hope they can figure out a way of playing both of them. I know they're Americans, and that's going to be tough for a Saskatchewan offensive line that needs an American probably in there, or possibly even 2. So I think Frankie Hickson's going to win out in this one in the end. The guy's got a lot of upside on him, and he's only 26 years old. I think he's going to be the guy going forward in Saskatchewan. Ryan?
Number 4 for me, I've got Kevin Brown of the Edmonton Elks. He is one of the players I am most excited about to see this upcoming season because he lit it up down the stretch. You had those 2 guys at 1,000 yards, a lot of others around 600, 500. Kevin Brown only played 7 games last season and put up nearly 500 yards, also put up almost 200 through the air there as well. And this was on a team in the Edmonton Elks that, wasn't winning very many games. It's not like they were trying to run out the clock and run the ball a lot. No, this was a team that was playing from behind or in close football games for a lot of this here. And Kevin Brown was an integral part of that. I think he stormed onto the scene late in the season, and he is one of my favorite running backs to watch coming into this year. So I had to include him in my top 5 somewhere because he deserved it with what he did in the short time he was here this past season. Mike at number 4 on his list has Dedrick Mills of the Calgary Stampeders, so one of the backup running backs there is who Mike has there. And he had 459 yards in only 6 games last season, so a great season there for Dedrick Mills as well. That moves us on to number 3 on the list. I can go first this time around, and we've talked about him a little bit already. I've got Brady Oliveira as my number 3 running back in the CFL. Hit 1,000 yards last season. One of only 3 or 4 Canadian running backs to hit 1,000-yard seasons? Or is there something else? Or is it rookie running backs to hit 1,000-yard season? There was some sort of stat where he was one of the only 3 with the season he had last season. And that was his first full season as a starting running back for the team after kind of, playing a little bit the season before in between Andrew Harris there. I think Oliveira had a really strong finish to the season last year. That's in a Winnipeg offense that has so many other weapons and has guys like Nick Dembski taking the carries away, has Johnny Augustine taking some of the carries away there. You guys talked about Greg McRae. To still put up 1,000-yard season there, I think Oliveira is one of the most dynamic running backs in the league, and that's why I have him in my number 3 slot. Adam, let's go to you for your number 3.
Yeah, for sure. For me, it's a Nebraska Cornhusker. I think we already mentioned him once before, Dedrick Mills. The guy there should be a starter already in this league and a feature back. I mean, he's behind somebody that I'm sure I'll get mentioned a few times later on here. But 67 carries, 11 carries per game, yet he still gets 76 yards per game average, 6.9 yards per carry. Nice. And is a 5'10", 220-pound back that's a very hard guy to take over. So I don't know what they do in Calgary to get really good running backs. They've had John Cornish, they've had Joffrey Reynolds, they've had so many good running backs in that Calgary system, and Dedrick Mills is just another one of them. Trey?
Oh man, I gotta go through my Wikipedia page so I can keep up with Adam's stats here. So my number 3. Oh, he started his college football career with the Nevada Wolfpack. That's probably in the same division Simon Fraser was in. Where the heck is that? Then he transferred to the University of Iowa, played for the Hawkeyes. Went undrafted to the Oakland Raiders. Then he went to the Saskatchewan Roughriders practice roster. Another stint with the Raiders before going with the Houston Roughnecks, before landing with the BC Lions. And I am shocked, James Butler did not go back to BC, and they let him go with Bo in Hamilton. What are you doing, BC? But I have James Butler, just a 1,000-yard guy. You know, he picked up 1,000 yards with Nathan Rourke. I know he only played a little bit, but Nathan Rourke was rushing for 6. I think I saw he was like top something in rushing yards. When I was like, can I pick Nathan Rourke as my running back? Depending on our definition there. Yeah, James Butler. Ryan?
Not to mention the Lions were throwing for 400, 500 yards a game there as well. And to still put that total up there is definitely impressive there as well. At number 3, Mike had Brady Oliveira on his list there as well. So him and I agreed on that one there. Mike's pick at number 2, he can kick things off here. Again, if you want to get Mike's input on any of his picks, you can follow him on Twitter at Mike Garrell. We'll mention that later on as well. But he has William Stanback as his number 2 running back in the CFL. Trey, let's go to you next on this one. Who's number 2 for you?
Man, I got a guy who, if he showed up on an episode of Duck Dynasty, you would not be too shocked. AJ, most French-sounding name to not be from Quebec, Olette. I love this guy. Just a beast. And, same style I think Harris had over the last few years. 516 yards, only 2 touchdowns, but didn't he have that one against Edmonton that he went like untouched for like 40 yards? Nobody wanted to touch the guy. I mean, look at that mullet. I wouldn't want to touch him either. Doesn't look like he shampooed that thing since college. Easy to go with. I don't know. He just looks like, Cajun boy. He eats them frog legs and squirrels just like the Robertsons do on Duck Dynasty, man. Look at this kid. He's shooting ducks and deer out of his house right now. Has a similar birthday to me, apparently, 1995, so I'll take it. Adam?
Well, mine, I don't know if I should have put him this high now because I'm really worried because Ryan didn't. Eric Ward, Cardinal player, 5'9", 205. Yeah, it's Kevin Brown. I look at him and I say there's some real upside to the kid. First year is going to be his first real true year. It'll be this year with the Edmonton Elks. He had 486 yards last year, but that's only in 7 games at a 6.6 yard per carry average, and really only had 10 plays a game. So the upside in Kevin Brown is just really incredible. He has a running quarterback, which will benefit him in looks or in play action. I think it'll help Kevin Brown gets open a little bit more because guys will have to also watch Taylor Cornelius, who runs a lot with the Edmonton Elks. So I like Kevin Brown. I don't know. Maybe I should have put him a little bit lower, but I'll take my chances at number 2.
All right, Kevin Brown at number 2 for you. For me at number 2, I believe I'm the last one to go here. I've got Jamal Morrow of the Saskatchewan Roughriders as my number 2 running back. and really strongly considered putting him as the top running back in the CFL. I know you're high on Frankie Hickson, and I am as well, and I thought about maybe slotting him somewhere in the top 5 here. But Jamal Morrow played 12 games last season, 666 yards, as you mentioned there, Trey. That's just on the ground. He also put up 366 through the air and 500 in the return department as well. This is a guy who played in a system in Saskatchewan that didn't run the ball very much at all. Sometimes they did. He had some games where they used him properly and a lot of games where they didn't, and to still put these numbers up there. Now he's playing this season where who's his offensive coordinator? Oh, yeah, his running backs coach from last season. So you would expect, hopefully, more involvement from the running backs here, which to me means big season coming for a guy like Jamal Morrow. He can do everything. He did everything in the games he played last year. I don't think anybody putting more all-around numbers up at the running back position than Jamal Morrow. So he slots in for me at number 2, which brings us to the top running back in the CFL. Adam, let's go back to you to kick us off this time.
Well, I think mine probably was the most obvious out of everybody's for choices. The University of Arizona Wildcats, 5'9", 207, number 35 on the Calgary Stampeders. It's Kadeem Carey. The guy there had an exceptional year last year. He keeps getting better and better every year in the run game. He's 30 years old. He's getting a little bit up there in age, probably for a running back. About 1,088 yards last year, 6.6 yards per carry, and only played 14 games. I mean, he plays all 18. He's going to be almost getting close to records. So, you know what? He had a great year last year. I can't see Calgary changing their play calls much. I mean, it's still Dave Dickinson making the calls. I think Kadeem Carey is probably still the best running back in the league. And hopefully after this, we get to do some reasoning on why I didn't pick somebody else also. So.
Yeah, we'll go through the list, honorable mentions or the names left off the list out after this. Also, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go with Kadeem Carey here also. He's my number 1 running back in the CFL. You mentioned 14 games. The fact that he played 14 when other guys played 17 or 18, still led the league in rushing. That's a big thing to me. 10 touchdowns, ran away with the competition there. And also had Peyton Logan and Dedrick Mills behind him, who did rotate in some of these games and just still put those numbers up despite, having that secondary rushing there. To me, makes Kadeem Carey the best running back in the CFL. This one, that was the easiest spot to slot in on this list for me. Mike also put Kadeem Carey as his number 1 running back, so that's 3 so far. Trey, who is your number 1 running back in the CFL? Is it 4 across the board here, or are you going somewhere else?
Well, I got to build the suspense a little bit, so let's read some stats here. My individual broke the record for most rushing yards in the Pac-12. Pac-12 is a pretty decent, maybe not as of late, but they've had some good UCL teams over the year with 366 yards. Fortunately, according to his Wikipedia page, he got into some trouble. He pleaded not guilty to a misdemeanor assault, but, crap happens. Charges were dropped. He scored 2 touchdowns in the NFL, rushing touchdowns with 1 receiving. He currently has 69 receptions in the CFL. I'm going with Kadeem Carey of the Calgary Stampeders. You took all my good stuff away, so I had to find the other stuff on Wikipedia that you guys didn't say. It's really hard not to go with him. Yeah, he's 30, but he kind of gives me like a Andrew Harris, Cornish kind of Peterson, like Adrian Peterson, guys that just won't quit. You know what I mean? Yeah, maybe an injury might set him back. That's always what it seems to do. But until that day happens, you don't want to assume that, right? You want to think he's going to keep going. And I think that he's still in Calgary, right? So that's going to be a good guy for. Not Pistol Pete, the other guy, Mayor, to Tommy, whoever the court, not Wild Thing, the other one. Give them some time back there. Yeah, Wild Thing or whatever. Yeah, that's the best still that they play that every third inches. I love that. But it's hard. This guy's great. I very rarely agree with Mike, and I don't think we've ever agreed on anything. Maybe 2 or 3 things in the year I've known the guy. This was one that, can't argue with him.
Well, there's a consensus number one across the board from the four of us in Kadeem Carey, but our lists do look very different. Other than that, let's recap real quick here and talk about who we left off of our lists. Adam, you've got Greg McCrae, Frankie Hickson, Dedrick Mills, Kevin Brown, and Kadeem Carey on your list. Interesting thing to me, Kadeem Carey, really the only one that was a starter coming into last season. You got a couple up-and-coming backups here. Why did these guys make the list over some of the, potentially bigger names that may have been left off?
I think it's mostly for me potential on some of these guys. I mean, Kevin Brown has got a 6.6 yard per carry. That's why I really liked him. Frankie Hickson, I just like the way that he can slash into a defense and make some big plays and has an opportunity to make a big play. So those are why I picked those two guys. And Greg McCrae, as much as you guys in Winnipeg want to say that he's a wide receiver, go look at his stats from college. He had the third best running yards ever in UCF. He is a running back, and I think if they can figure out a way of playing him, I know Winnipeg loves to have the Canadian running back, and they like using that position that way. If they can figure out a way of getting Greg McCrae in the backfield, they're going to have a lot more success than they think they would, maybe even still with Brady Oliveira. The honorable mention part, though, that I wanted to give out, I didn't have James Butler on my list, and I didn't have William Stanback on my list. And there's probably two reasons why. One, both teams are not known for running teams they're on right now. Hamilton, well, we've seen it before. You had a guy like Sean Thomas Hurlington, who's a pretty good running back, and also Wes Hillis. Both of them are good running backs and very little used. And you've brought in Bo Levi Mitchell to throw the football. You're going to throw the football. We all know it in Hamilton. So I don't see really any running back coming out of there being very effective. A similar story over in Montreal. You've got a guy in Jason Moss who just abandons the run game at the weirdest times. Ask us in Saskatchewan. We might know about this. So that's why I didn't put William Stanback on the list. Otherwise, he probably would have only been maybe an honorable mention or number 5 on my list, because injuries are starting to pile up on William Stanback. He's getting older nowadays. I like the guy, and I think he's a great running back, but, coming back from what he did there, he didn't look the same as he did when he came into the league this year. So I'm a little nervous about that. I would like to see a little bit more out of him. But that being said, we'll see what carries on here. My only other honorable mention was, I believe I had that one for Williams from Ottawa. I think that he's probably going to get a better opportunity this year, especially now that Ottawa's got a little bit better of a offensive line. Devontae Williams, I think it is, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So Devontae Williams will have a better opportunity to run the football. And I think, William Powell, I don't think is back. So Williams will be the main guy there. And I like him if you're going to be picking up fantasy players. I don't know if I'd put him quite in the top 5 yet. Trey, your list, what did it include?
I'll say Hickson. I went with I didn't want to put two guys on the same team, so I went with Morrow just because.
Just let me recap your top 5.
Oh yeah, go for it. Go for it.
You've
Yeah,
got
come on, Adam. Come on.
Jamal Morrow, Brady Oliveira, James Butler, AJ Ouellette, Kadeem Carey. So Frankie Hickson, you mentioned, was a name you left off.
Yeah, because I didn't want to put two guys on the same team, and I had to go with you guys are the worst Rock fans ever, not knowing the number of the beast, but got to go with 666. I thought about Harris only because of all-time greatness to put him on there and watch him come back, but again, I had to give it to Ouellette over him. McCrae, because I'm protesting this still. I don't care what the ruling of the league says that McCrae counts. I'm protesting it for the remainder of the top 5s. Running backs is tough because, God, they're the worst position. They could be gone in 6 games. You never hear from them again. Or you got a guy like Kadeem Carey and Andrew Harris who are 30s and have been in the league for a little bit, right? So, tough one. Ryan, what about you?
My list, I had James Butler, Kevin Brown, Brady Oliveira, Jamal Morrow, Kadeem Carey. The big names I left off my list, Frankie Hickson, Dedrick Mills were two guys I was strongly considering as good up-and-coming running backs as well. I didn't put them on my list because I expect them to be in backup roles this season, and so I don't think they necessarily are going to be given the opportunity to crack into that top 5 total running backs in my view. Maybe, a season or two for down the road, they get a better shot. So we look at it there. William Stanback, a lot of things Adam said make sense to me on that one as well. And was my thought process there too. When a healthy William Stanback, given the opportunities and the workload that he can, is one of the top 2 running backs in the CFL to me. But after the long injury last season, he came back. He wasn't, fully, in the same category. I wasn't getting a lot of usage there, was William Stanback. So I left him off my list for that reason. Also left him off my list because they brought Walter Fletcher and Jeshurun Antwi back for a reason, which to me kind of spells, load management maybe for Stanback. And if the Alouettes don't trust to give him that workload this year, I don't know if I trust putting him in my top 5 currently. But I hope he has a good return from injury here. Andrew Harris, same thing. I don't expect him to be able to last the entire season out there, so tough putting him in my top 5 list there. Also, Mike's list, AJ Ouellette, Dedrick Mills, Brady Oliveira, William Stanback, Kadeem Carey. Again, follow him on Twitter at Mike Garrell. If you want to get his insight into his picks there. Also, let us know in the comments section as well, whether it's in the YouTube comments, tweet us on Twitter, etc. Let us know what your top 5 lists are there. Also, I think that does it for this episode of the podcast. Let's get into wrapping things up here. And we will take a look at what we've got over on where you can find us over on social media. Let me pull that up here. I guess programming announcement, exciting programming announcement. We're getting closer to the start of the CFL season, and that means the content is ramping up for the year. We've been going every 2 weeks throughout the off season here, and from this point forward into the start of the season, we're going weekly here on the podcast. Exact date each week still to be determined, I think. We'll hopefully try to find some consistency there, but you can follow us on social media for all the insight or all the, heads up when the episodes are coming. We'll be going weekly, and in the next couple of weeks, we'll be focusing on the upcoming CFL draft. We'll take a look at, I think next week we're taking a look at the East Division ahead of the draft, the West Division the week after, and then it's draft night, and we'll be recapping everything from the draft there. So look forward to that over the next 3 weeks here on the podcast. Make sure you subscribe over on your favorite podcast platform, over on YouTube as well, to catch all of the shows live there. On Twitter and Facebook at CF Countdown Pod is where you can find the podcast. Make sure you check out all the other great shows from around the Canadian Football Podcast Network as well at CF Pod Network. Let's start with you here, Adam. Where can people find everything you've got going on social media these days?
Yeah, no, you can find me at Adam Stewart 1. Won't be as much hockey posts anymore because, that's done. But there may be a few more seeding posts and Cav posts and all the good stuff that comes with springtime here in Saskatchewan. So, make sure you follow me at Adam Stewart 1. And I believe you said it earlier. Make sure you give Mike also a follow. His team did pretty darn good this year for the Winnipeg. Sorry, I can't remember what their name is. AAA female team that he follows quite regularly and does some play-by-play with. He does an awesome job with that, and congratulations to the team that he follows real close. They just about managed to get all the way to the SO Cup, but we're one step away from it, but still a great season. So, Trey, where can guys find you?
Y'all can find me at Trey Harnesslink on the Twitter. As I mentioned before, if you want to learn about all these nifty, good-looking horsies behind me, I got my new show starting Saturday. Saturdays is actually 9 a.m., but after that, it'll always be 10 a.m. Central Time, and then Wednesdays, 1 p.m. So check me out on Twitter for that. Yeah, we had to start earlier on Saturday. My producer's some sort of chess prodigy, and he's got some chess tournament. Yeah, no, seriously, he's I got to go to a chess tournament. So can we start an hour earlier? I was like, okay, man, I don't care. So if you want to check me out with that, yeah, and make sure you do follow Mike, because when the Jets get swept in 4 rounds, I want everyone to make sure, or in 4 games, I want everyone to make sure he knows about it. So yeah,
four rounds means they're making the finals.
Good God, we would never hear the end. I'm not going to hear the end of it.
Well, currently, I just wanted to bring up, too, the Edmonton Oilers did win their game tonight, and the Kraken and Golden Knights are tied. So right now, the Jets would be playing the Edmonton Oilers, which would be a, good luck, Winnipeg. Hope that
was look back, 1 or 2 years ago when everybody thought good luck, Winnipeg, and they swept the Oilers in the first round. So you never know in the Stanley Cup playoffs. All I know is we're like 2 weeks out from the Toronto Maple Leafs hitting the golf course. So look forward to that.
No, okay. You know what? Real quick. I only want to beat Tampa so Boston can demolish them. That's it. That's all I would want.
I'm honestly, you know what? If Boston plays the Islanders, I'm going to go with an upset. I'm going to say the Islanders will pass Boston.
I'm a little.
Look, no team that's ever won at least 62 games in a season has ended up losing in the first round, right? The 2019 Tampa Bay Lightning did not happen.
They won 63, Boston, so they got nothing to shield for it anymore.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, they did win 63. They broke the record, so hopefully it goes better for them. Hopefully they get a playoff win, because we didn't in 2019, but. The revenge arc led to
that was who? The Panthers?
The Blue Jackets. Yeah. But it led to 2 straight Stanley Cups and a 3rd appearance. So I'll take it. That's, for all of you hockey fans out there who your team is now officially out of the playoffs at the end of the regular season, or will be in short order here. Good news for you. We're here weekly on the podcast. You got a weekly dose of CFL talk, and the CFL season is coming up in the near future as well. So make sure you continue doing all the great things to help to tune in, help us support the show. We really appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, share the show with your friends. Help us grow the show. We always appreciate that. Make sure you buy those season tickets. Keep bringing us back for as long as we can here on the podcast. I'm kidding. There are no season tickets.
It will be the Houston or the Arizona Canadian football countdown at this point.
There we go.
I'll take the weather. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. Anyways, that does it for tonight. Stay tuned. Next week, we'll be back to start previewing the upcoming CFL draft. Look forward to that. Thanks for everybody who joined us live, tuned in after the fact. All of you, we really appreciate that as always. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.